Hello, people of Earth, as well as aliens above, and as I'm being told by my very own squirrel editor, we also have some lizards from the underground joining us today on this episode of Hidden Gems. That was supposed to be the name of my channel, but I gaffed, so here we are. Coincidentally, today's Hidden Gem is actually a game by the very simple name called Mini Healer. Mini Healer, in my opinion, is a criminally underrated game. I put on maybe 20-25 hours into it ever since I picked it up a few days ago, actually. And I've had insane levels of fun. So this is my foolish attempt to kind of make it break into the spotlight as though I have any clout to speak of whatsoever on the matter. But I genuinely do believe that this is one of those games with potential to break out something like Vampire Survivors to the point where streamers start playing it and we get a lot of knockoff games that kind of spawn the entire internal genre within the genre. So hopefully, the game eventually does come out on the map and the developer gets a huge influx of money so, they can support it further and add more things to it, because as it stands, the only bad thing about it is, I wish there was more of it. However, don't be fooled, there's still a huge amount of content in this game. It's not as though it's bare bones or anything. I just wish, there was more of it. So, like extra classes and extra mini games and so on and so forth. Anyway, without further ado, let me go through 8 very specific reasons as to why I think this game is fantastic, and if it looks like something you might enjoy, you should definitely be picking it up. First reason is very simple. There are tons of unique bosses in this game that challenge your perception of how to heal a party. Now, don't get me wrong, these aren't like WoW raid or MMORPG in general raid levels of bosses where you have to sort of account for every second of the encounter, but they are complex enough to where you can't just sleepwalk through them or just, ignore mechanics completely in lieu of just overgearing them by items. You actually do have to pay attention to a lot of very specific mechanics that are effectively raid wipes. So in that department, the game is extremely engaging with varying designs of bosses, mechanics that are super fun, and some that kind of, pissed me off because I was a moron and I didn't realize how the game actually expected me to interact with the with the mechanic. But that's on me, that's not on the game. I didn't actually count the bosses, but they're in the range of like 30-40 at the very minimum from what I've seen. And further on in the end game, you get a combination of bosses in a room that makes certain things extremely challenging to the point that they might even be unbeatable unless you're really good at the game. So yeah, if you're into seeing a ton of unique bosses and how to defeat them as a healer, but also kind of as a party, this is the game for you. Second reason are the 4 extremely unique classes that you can play as a healer. You have the Paladin, the Priest, the Occultist, and the Druid. All 4 play not necessarily in hugely distinct ways, but they all have their own archetype. For instance, Druid is more, HOTS, as they are in virtually every other MMORPG, where they just put a bunch of HOTS on people and then, those HOTS do the thing. Priests are more about shielding and prevention damage. Occultists are more about dealing damage and then, vampiring, leeching off of health to heal the party. And then Paladins, I actually haven't played a Paladin class yet. From what I've seen, though, it's sort of a mix between the Priest and Occultist, where it's about dealing the damage and then using preventive cooldowns to make sure your party doesn't die. Good thing about this game actually is that you can retool your character at no expense, whatever you want, both in terms of masteries as well as talents themselves. So if you, just screw up somewhere along the way and you don't have enough points for the build that you want, you can just respec at no cost. The game is really forgiving if you make a mistake, so don't worry about it. Just pick up whatever sounds fun and play around with it however much you want. Number 3 are the class trees themselves, which offer a huge variety of customization. You won't be picking up every single option that you actually have. You're going to be selecting some that sort of curate and lean toward your own playstyle. This is further emphasized a bit later on with another thing that I'm going to be, adding to this list. But in terms of trees themselves, there is a lot of variety even within a single druid build. Like you can be offense focused, specialist. You can be purely defensive. You can be a mixed bag, something that I forgot to mention within unique classes. You get enough points that you can actually spec into 2 to possibly 3 different trees so you can have this sort of a weird dual specialization going on. For instance, my first class that I played with, I spec'd into priest and druid, but instead of, picking shield option in the priest tree, I picked up more offensive and more, aura options that allowed my HODs to do even more healing over time, so that worked out really well. But yeah, there's a lot of customization even within the single class trees that you won't be bogged down to one specific style even within the same class. Number 4. This might be a slight of a con that I wish the game would expand upon if it ever gets big, but there is a limited number of active abilities that you can actually get access to. There are about 10 generic ones from what I recall that every class can pick up, and then every class themselves has, I think, between 8 and 10 as well, though you have to unlock 2 of them through the talent trees, while you unlock the rest by leveling up. Now that's a lot of abilities, don't get me wrong, that's in the range of like 60-70 abilities altogether in the game, but I wish there was a bit more. That's all there is to it. However, what it lacks in the number of active abilities, it actually makes up for in their interactions within the items as well as the class tree themselves. So active abilities change as you sort of pick up new items and how those items sort of metamorphosize the abilities themselves and so on and so forth. By the way, this is not accounting abilities that other party members have that are sort of cast automatically on a specific cooldown, which is also something I wish would be expanded upon, but I'm going to list a couple of things that I want to see in the game toward the end of the video. Moving on to the 5th thing, the game is really fun, but can also be really, really challenging. Early on, especially if you know the crux of the healing, as I did, because I'm mostly a healer in most of the MMORPGs that I play, the game was kind of a snooze fest initially, but then once mechanics started creeping in and bosses stopped being tank and spank and you had to pay attention, and once the damage started scaling up, I saw myself needing to optimize my gear, optimize my talent tree, optimize the fights and figure out how the fights actually work, which was insanely fun and kind of reminded me of how it used to be back in the day when I didn't know anything, when I was like 15-year-old kid trying to heal in Wrath of the Lich King on my druid and suffering a lot. But yeah, despite the fact that it can be a bit easy, eventually the game's mechanics and numbers will catch you off guard and make you go, I clearly wasn't ready for that. Number 6, there are a lot of unique interactions between the party, so other 3 classes in your party and yourself as the healer. Now, unfortunately, there's another con in here in that you can't optimize your entire party to do its thing perfectly. For instance, you can specialize in the ranger doing damage, or you can specialize in the berserker doing damage, or you can specialize in the tank doing damage. You can't have all 3 doing equal levels of damage. You can mix the 2 maybe, though it's probably not optimal. During my first run, Ranger was responsible actually for like 95% of my overall damage in every single encounter, which felt a bit bad if I'm being honest, because I did want to spec Berserk up and that, but it required me going into the trees that I didn't even dip my toes into, so it was sort of out of the space. I did read in the forums that developer is sort of considering adding like 4 inventories, so 4 basically character screens that you can spec out every single individual member of the party with their own gear, which would be amazing. Please do that, I really appreciate it. But beyond that sort of a nitpick, there are a lot of interactions between which items you equip in your item slots and how you interact with your entire party, which I really did appreciate. This isn't just about healing them, it's about buffing them, speccing them out to deal specific type of damage, or to tank more, or to be sort of self-sufficient in tanking so that you can focus on healing the one guy dealing all of your damage. It was actually super fun trying to optimize it in ways that I didn't expect the game to be like. Number 7, on top of the main game, which should take you anywhere between 10 to 15 to maybe 20 hours if you're really slow about it, to sort of run through the main campaign, there are 2 extra mods in the end game. First one is the one that you probably expect, which is just the endless run. You go in and things just get progressively more difficult, and you pick up a bunch of new items, you pick up a bunch of new levels, and you get stronger and you go deeper, blah blah blah. You expected that. But second mod actually surprised me, and in my opinion was even more fun, which is Slay-the-Spire Lite version of this game. So effectively you go into the Slay-the-Spire sort of a campaign without anything you own previously. You start as a fresh character, you choose a couple of abilities, and then you go through this sort of a path that branches out, where you're picking up new abilities, you're picking up, items that aren't exactly items, but we're expecting to, like runes and such. And it was a lot of fun. Like, like it was more fun for me than just running through the endless campaign, because at that point of endless where I was at, it was all about min-maxing and super optimizing your build, which, it isn't exactly the most exciting thing in the world. But starting fresh and having random runs where one time you pick the shielding option, the next time you pick a more offensive focused option, the next time this, the next time that, it offered a lot more flexibility in terms of what you could do with the game. And if there is one thing I want, is for them to expand upon this model. More on this after the 8th reason why you should play in this game, which is very simple one. The game is just plain old fun. It really is super fun. It's engaging. It's beautiful. Like, pixel art is amazing. And I wish there were more games like this, but unfortunately I haven't been able to find any like it, namely because the game didn't get popular enough to, spawn a bunch of copycats, which is why this is my attempt, my desperate Hail Mary, that the game might pick up some steam and we can get the entire subgenre of just a bunch of healing games, because I know that it's a niche thing that most people don't like and enjoy healing in MMORPGs, but I do. Even today when I'm playing Dragonflight, all my mains are healers or maybe tanks to a certain capacity. But yeah, now that that's out of the way, for those of you who, just want to play the game, you can, log off. These are just my recommendation in case another Hail Mary, the developers are watching, or is, I don't know if it's one person or multiple of them. These are my recommendations for what I would like to see more of in the game. So, as I said before, the first one is probably more active abilities. There are a lot of them, but it never hurts to have more, especially more variety within singular class trees. Like, as I mentioned, you can sort of spec out certain ways within the specialization of a class, but I wish there was a more variety. I wish, druids weren't necessarily sort of pushed into the, renew builds and hearts, because that's the most optimal way to build them. And I wish there was a few more options. Not necessarily the worst thing in the world, and probably the least important one, in my opinion, to focus on. But just toss in a couple of extra abilities here and there with every update. You can make them sort of generic, if I'm being honest, so you don't have to go too hard thinking about them. Next one is the one that you guys already mentioned in the forums, that you are considering, building 4 separate character windows. So you can spec out the healer, you can spec out the ranger, berserker, and the knight individually. Now, I really want this to happen. I know that the balancing will be a complete nightmare. You're probably going to have to redo the numbers from grounds up. So, what you can do is leave the campaign as it is and open this option up in the end game. So you open up the 3rd mod effectively. You keep the endless one as it is now. You keep the Slay-the-Spire Lite, and you add an extra mod that opens up this 4 class character windows. Numbers can be, bonkers here, and it will allow us to really delve deep into the customizing of our party and what we want to do with it. And it won't make me feel bad about Berserker doing like 0.5% of the damage in an encounter, because my ranger is just the one I decided to focus on. So yeah, really wish, I know that it's going to be a lot of work, don't get me wrong, I understand that it's going to be a nightmare initially, but if you can sort of slot it in there somehow, I'd really appreciate it. And if you can't, then I beg of you, focus more on the Slay-the-Spire Lite mod. It's super fun, add more, chapters to it, add more variety to it, and just add more things to it, because I want to keep running it over and over again, and I'm playing it more than I'm playing, my main healer now. So if there was more of it, I'd really appreciate it. So anyway, that was my desperate attempt to make the mini healer a thing that every streamer plays, so you can get hundreds of thousands of downloads and, fill the developers' pockets, and I can get more of it. That's literally the only reason I'm making this video, and obviously sort of to live up to the name of my channel, because this is a hidden gem. It has like just over 1,000 positive reviews, which are all like overwhelmingly positive. Everyone who's played this game loves it, because what's there not to love? So yeah, thank you, people of Earth, aliens up above, and of course our newcomers, new friends, lizards of the underworld. Thank you for joining me today in my desperate attempt. I need to learn another word besides desperate. crazed attempt to make main healer a mainstream thing. There's a pun for you to make up for the lack of anything in this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you some other time.